So how you doing, man? How's it going?
Good. It's can't say it's just going great, through this rehab and looking to get back into that mix soon.
Yeah, so how's I know we talked a little bit at the PFL show on Wednesday, but how's the rehab going?
I'm 6 months in. It's been going great. Every time it's just like very just outstanding, just progression through, you know, through what we've been doing, from the surgery to, you know, my PT, all the people at Edge Pro. They've been that's where we go for physical therapy,
Right.
and they've been walking me every step of the way. And recoveries, it's like we've actually, even though we're at 6 months, the recovery's faster than expected. So,
Mhm.
I thank them for that.
Yeah, and I was learning a little bit about the first time you had surgery, and I think that recovery went a lot faster than expected too. So what's up with you? Are you a superhuman, or how are you recovering so well every time?
You know what? I just have, I'm lucky to say I have the right people around me to make sure that everything goes the way it has to be. So before it was like surgery on my elbows and, you know, people at Edge Pro, everyone at Edge Pro just friggin' does wonders for me. So it's also the patience, so I didn't, the last surgery I got, I took a year off, and then it was literally right before COVID. So, of course, everything kind of was shut down. But then
Sure.
afterward, even for this one, it's just being smart with it. I know it's like, oh, by 6 months you should be technically should be good, but look, I'm making sure this goes smooth, so then I don't have to worry about this again.
Right, right. And then so that you could come back into the octagon and be your absolute best self. Um,
Exactly.
yeah, so Julio, I would love to just start from the beginning. I know a lot about you because I'm a Jersey boy, and you've done some of your best work in New Jersey.
Mhm.
But I would love to start at the beginning. I know you were born in Florida, right? Then you moved
Yeah.
down to Colombia and you spent around 10 years there, and then you came back
Mhm.
to the States.
Yes.
So
Absolutely.
yeah, tell me a little bit about your beginnings and coming back to America and things like that. Tell me a little bit about that early journey.
It was like I'm glad, my parents brought me here because then I was able to now, become a US citizen. And, then it was easier for me to then just kind of start adjusting. When
Hmm.
I went to back to Colombia, it was like also, you know, that's where my roots are. That's where my, whole family's from. And, I spent most of my childhood there. So then when I came back to, the United States, it was a little bit of an adjustment period because it's learning English. I went right into public school, and, not knowing a word. Like right now, this is my English has come along so much because of just constant learning. It's just
Hmm.
constantly just, I was thrown into schools like, all right, figure it out.
Right.
That's it. So I had to do that. And, it was a little rough start. Kids pick on you because you don't understand a word of English. Kids are ruthless in school. They'll pick on you
Yeah.
for whatever simple reason. But it was more like I was just more eager to just like, all right, let me learn this language. Let me learn what, you know, the life in the big city is, at a younger age. And, rough start, but we're here.
Yeah, and I mean my family's from the Ukraine. I'm the first person born in America from my family. My
Mhm.
sister came here when she was 4 years old, so she was telling me a little bit about how people would pick on her too. She would come home crying because she didn't know what anybody was saying and things like that. But at the end of the day, I think that's like kind of what built you to where you are today, right? Um,
Yeah,
did
you
did
got thick skin.
did you get into a lot of fights as a kid, or did you always want to be a fighter?
You know what? As a kid, for me, I didn't want to get into fights because look, I didn't know anybody, and like from growing up in Colombia as a kid, it's like, we always travel like in groups, like, so it was like a group of friends and so on.
Mhm.
So knowing you don't know a a word of English, and then people trying to start fights with you because you don't speak their language.
Right.
It's like I'm like, yeah, I'm not gonna get into a fight knowing that I don't know anybody here. It's like I don't understand anybody. I'm like, so I would avoid it. I would avoid it unless I really had to. But luckily, it was more like I'm like, all right, I don't understand what you're saying to me, so I just walk away, and that was it. Nobody would do anything.
Yeah.
But it was when I was around 12, 13 years old, and that's where you start really like, once I understood English well, and I understood, like how people would pick on me because look, I was never in shape. I was like a fat chubby kid, and then people would pick on me because of what I looked like and because I was overweight, typical nonsense. But still, like I have I've seen so much when I was in Colombia that here it's like that was like nothing to me. So I just
Right.
kind of went about my business, and I honestly didn't care. But I became a fighter more when I fell in love with doing martial arts
Mm-hmm.
because it it was more like for me finding it was like I wanted to find my thing. Like, people do basketball, this and that, but it was just like wasn't what I didn't feel like it would hold me as accountable as martial arts does.
Mm-hmm.
Because it was like, all right, you know what, you don't if you don't play right, they'll what have you sit on the bench and that's it, like whatever. Everyone else plays, and it's like, all right, you're not good enough, you just sit there. It was like, no, it's like I wanted something that was I'm like, I had no choice but to hold myself accountable to get good at.
Right.
So
Yeah, and I
and
mean, you've made it to the pinnacle, right? So,
yeah,
yeah. And I mean, you mentioned that you were like obese as a kid. I think I read that when you first got into like a mixed martial arts gym, it was just to lose weight, right?
yeah.
So tell me a little bit about that journey and what was it like through that process of weight loss and stuff?
Yeah, I'll tell you what, I went to my first ever, trial class. It was a private lesson, and my instructor, um, who's been mentoring me now for 23 years, I thought I had a private lesson, and they told me, okay, I did the punches, I followed along, like I was excited about it because I'm like, oh, it's like I watched cartoon as a kid, I watched like Dragon Ball Z, and I'm like, yo, I'm freaking doing this shit. I'm about to fucking start learning how to punch and kick and stuff. Um, but then when it came down to do push-ups, I'm like, all right, I never done anything like this. So it's like, all right, you're gonna start doing your push-ups. I did like half a push-up, and I just could not get up. I was struggling, right?
Wow.
And it was like it was an eye opener, especially as a kid, knowing that if I was to get put on the floor, getting up was a challenge, and that to me was alarming, right? Because I'm like, damn, it kind of showed me, I'm like, damn, why do I feel so weak right now? Like not be able like to push myself off from the ground.
Hmm.
And you know, my family, I have like, people in my family have like they come from like guess like they have like diabetes and stuff like that, and like
Sure.
they come from like hefty sets. So, when you hear stuff like that, you just as a kid, I'm like, like I'm young, whatever. And when I was in Colombia, I was literally like super skinny. And then I came to New York, and I'm like, oh, I'll just eat whatever I want. And next thing you know, like I blew up. But it became very alarming because I didn't want it to be like that for me. I was tired of being the fat kid also. I was tired of being the kid that would go to a swimming pool but keep his shirt on because I was too insecure in like the way I looked, the way my appearance was. And once I started training, it built something for me. It built that kind of confidence in me. I'm like, one, I was losing weight, but two, I fell in love with the aspect of martial arts. I'm like, I was put in a beginner class, and then I did a jujitsu class after, and it was just so cool because it's like I'm like, yo, it's awesome. Like you're twisting people around, you're like tossing each other around. So it was pretty neat. Like I love this type of stuff, and I just kept showing up every single day to class. Doesn't matter whether I got thrown around or I did the throwing around. It, you know, it built character. It helped me lose the weight that I want to. But once I fell in love with martial arts, it's like the weight loss happened on its own. I was just like, yo, I just want to be a badass at this. And
Were you
that
good? Were you good right away, or would you say that it took some time to get there?
it took me some time, especially because since I'm a southpaw, and mostly everyone was like they're orthodox, they're right-handed. So it's like for me, I'm like, well, this is confusing because it's like everyone's doing this, and I'm like the only one who's a lefty. So that little bit of like a hurdle, that's like a learning curve and all that. So I wasn't the best at all. Like, I mean, but the fact that I was just like, all right, yo, I'm here and I'm here to work hard. And like, if I'm told that, I need to work on something, I'm like, all right, let's do it. Let's work at it. Let me work at it. Let's just like, I just kept showing up, and I was just that person that even if I knew I wasn't great at it, I'm like, I'm gonna keep doing it until I get good at it. And from there on, it's like, 23 years later, I'm like, yo, this is the best journey I've ever taken.
Would you say that you get like you get that kind of work rate from that immigrant mentality? Like I know that my parents, I'm personally
Yeah.
not an immigrant, but my parents were always driving me because they knew, what they had to go through to, make a name for themselves, coming into this country with $50 to each of their names. Would you say that you get that from your family, or what would you say is like your motivation?
It's a mix of my family and my instructors, because my family, look, they came here. We went from, when I was in Colombia, we went from having everything to then we came here and then we have nothing.
Hmm.
And it's just, you start at the bottom. But as growing up, seeing my parents working multiple jobs and then doing all this work to, even though they would have nothing, it's like to give me everything that I needed in my life growing up. It meant a lot. And at the same time, you see that, you see the struggle they went to. And like at first as a little kid, you don't really understand it as much. But as you're growing up, it starts to really make sense. Your parents are exhausted, but they don't get home till later. You're like home alone because your parents are working
Hmm.
overtime or two or three jobs. So it's difficult. And I'm like, man, if I want to get ahead, I gotta have that kind of work ethic. It can't be like, oh yeah, it's gonna land on my lap and that's it. I'm not gonna get, spoon fed and everything's gonna be on a silver platter. And then that work ethic took into when I came to train, like knowing the fact that I was a fat, chubby kid, and I was lazy too. Um, my instructors were just as strict, as more strict than my parents were. So it was it was like, because look, when I was little, my parents got divorced. So my parents did whatever they had to do to make sure that I have opportunities and a good life. So that's why it brought me here to America, and then everything else happened. But my instructors to this very day just continue to push me to levels where it's like every time they force me to step up, whether it's as a fighter, as a you know, as a coach, as a person, whatever it is, like they give me those challenges and they make me understand it. Like everything is a lesson behind it.
Sure.
And it's just, I can't help but appreciate it more because what got me here is that type of guidance. They
Hmm.
were never soft on me. They were very direct with me, you know, and they told me when I deserve the pat on the back, they're like, you get a pat on the back. When they're like, you got to do this better, like ways to improve. They were very direct and honest about it, and that's something that I always appreciate.
Yeah, absolutely. And how old were you when they got divorced?
I was really young. And I think I was like 3, 4 years old.
Oh, okay. So you kind of grew up with that kind of dynamic and everything.
Yeah,
Did
and like
did
sometimes
both
people
of
like mom. Yeah,
did both of them come to the States, or did one of them stay in Colombia?
right now my father lives in Colombia, and
Hmm.
like pretty much like like most of my family's in Colombia, and I came here with my mom and my sisters.
Do you feel more Colombian or do you feel more American, or is it like a 50-50 thing for you? Like how do you feel about your identity?
It's a 50-50. Like, because of course, when your parents, they're just speaking Spanish all the time, and
Mhm.
they're very to their roots and that kind of old school mentality. And I think American, the way that I was like, damn, um I was given these opportunities that many few don't have. My parents, they brought me here, and for them bringing me here, I was able to become a US citizen. And I was born here, so I was given an opportunity many don't have, that have to come here and then start from being an illegal immigrant to
Right.
work their way up, and it's not easy. But I was given that opportunity, so like, I'm really grateful for that. So, but it's a 50-50, because I know, like, when when I visited my dad last, it was great. I'm like, damn, man, it's like, it reminds you of just like, shit, this is like how it is here, how just much different it is here in the United States than it is over there.
Right.
And everything has its pros and cons, but like over there, it's just like, since it's a more slow pace, it's like the time for, like, with your family is much closer, as here it's like everyone's just constantly going, 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 going.
For sure.
So,
Yeah.
you got to make certain sacrifices here to be able to actually get to that point where, like, you can spend more time with your family and stuff like that.
Right.
It's never easy at the start, but it's
Yeah,
it's
and
doable.
and they all, like, my cat over here, by the way.
Yeah.
That, they say that in America, what is it, you work to live, you live to work in America, and then in other countries you work to live, right? Like, in America it's very work centered society. First thing you ask somebody, oh, what do you do? But you go to another country and people are just enjoying their lives a little bit more, and I think both sides could benefit from each other, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
So before we keep going, I just wanted to ask, do you have like a hard stop or anything, like, in terms of time, like?
No, no, I'm good. I'm
All
good.
right.
So, like,
Cool. Yeah, I just want to make sure. I just want to be conscious of your time. I know you're super busy. You're a co-owner of Tiger Schulman's in Bayside, right? So,
mhm.
definitely don't want to take you up for overtime, over the time you need to go, or whatever. But okay, cool. Yeah. So I wanted to move to talking a little bit about fighting, because that's why we're here, right? So my first question is, you were 10-0 as an amateur, which is extremely impressive. Uh, how come you decided to stay in the amateur ranks for so long? I know you were an amateur for around 4 years.
So my coaches wanted me to be didn't they want me to be one dimensional. So
Hmm.
as an amateur, they're like, okay, I started amateur MMA, and then they're like, okay, we need to work your stand up more.
Hmm.
And so they had me do kickboxing, and it was one fight where I remember it was a kickboxing fight. I fought this guy named Brandon Mickens. And as an amateur, he had like 40 something Muay Thai fights as an amateur, as to my like seven.
Hmm.
So I fought him for a title, and I lost that fight. We went first round, he got the better of me. Second round, I started picking it up, and then we clashed heads, and it went to the judge's scorecard from the previous rounds, which was towards him. But what happened is, like, I wasn't trusting my hands the way I wanted to. So they're
Right.
like, okay, you need to do some boxing. And I ended up, doing boxing fights and doing the New York Golden Gloves. And, they're like, okay, we want you to do more jujitsu tournaments. And, so I was still doing everything for a longer period of time. Because then I went to 13-0 as an amateur MMA. I did more kickboxing fights, and I rematched that guy, except in this when I rematched him,
You let
I
those
was the
hands go.
yeah, I let the hands go, but I was the title holder because I beat the guy that beat him for the
Okay.
title. So then I was defending the title that he lost against him, and I beat him, and then I went pro. So my coaches made me take the long journey there, but it's appreciated because then when you look at it, it's like you want to be comfortable everywhere,
Right.
right? It's like, look, whether, because I had to fight, people who were just pure wrestlers. Know I went pro, and then but I was able to have a lot of great takedown defense, and I thank it to the journey my coaches made me take to
Hmm.
get there. They were like, because I know, like, actually when I was had my second pro fight, they offered me to fight some, I forgot who it was, in Canada, in Nova Scotia. UFC was like, oh, we need a last minute replacement. My coaches were like, no. At first, like, I'm like, but it's the big leagues. And they're like, if you get put on those bright lights too soon, it could be the end of your career like that.
Right.
And I appreciate that. Like, I look back and I'm like, I'm glad I didn't take that early jump into the UFC where I got put into the bright lights too soon.
Hmm.
They 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 molded me into the fighter that they wanted to see, to then let me go professional and start now getting
Right.
to this level.
Yeah, and I mean, at the end of the day, I think when you started your amateur career, I think you were 17, right? So, 17 or 18 years old. So at the end of the day, I mean, it wasn't even that late that you ended up going pro. I think it ended up working out perfectly for you. I mean,
Exactly.
UFC fighter, winning record in the promotion. Like, I think it all went according to plan.
Yeah.
Um, but in terms of building up at Ring of Combat, you're a little bit of a New Jersey legend, if I may say so. Being winning the double champ status over there, defending both belts multiple times. So tell me a little bit about that experience and what it was like coming up as an undefeated fighter with I think by the time you took your first loss, I think you were 7-0
Yeah.
in the pros. Yeah. So tell me a little bit about that.
So I started the journey at 35. And back then, honestly, before, like, you started, now I used to have a nutritionist and all that.
Hmm.
Back then, it was a little more of the wild, wild west of like losing weight. So it would be like, all right, man, I can't eat for this amount of time. And it's like you try to do all these tricks to try and cut weight.
Yeah.
But also, I was younger. So I'm like, I would lose weight instantly and be like, all right, yeah, we'll be good. It's like I'm 5 pounds away from my weight. I'm good. It's like,
Hmm.
whatever. But then, like, as you start to get older, I'm like, oh, it's like every time I go to a new fight, it's like I weighed more and more and more. So it's like the journey to get to that weight class, I'm like, yo, this is starting to get tough. And the through rank combat, before I came back to 45, my last couple of fights, 35, I just felt dead because it was like I felt just depleted. I felt weak. I'm like, I just look like a walking corpse.
Hmm.
And I'm like, this is not good. And I lost to Brian Kelleher, and like I just felt like, I'm like, damn, these cuts are killing me right now. And so I came back to 45. Then I came back, I did it at 45. And, I did my first fight at 45 in CFFC. And then I came back to Rear Combat. And I fought Frank Benefuente for the title, and I beat him. I defended the belt. And then when I went to then when I got the shot at the Contender Series, I did it at 45. And then I started my journey at 45, then came back to 35 at the
Hmm.
UFC.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, and I'm curious, what's your relationship like with Brian Kelleher now? I mean, you guys had those two fights back in the day.
You know what? He's cool. Like, when I see him, it's all cordial. Like, it's he beat me. He beat me fair and square. Like, whatever happened, it was my mistake, and he got me there. He got those two victories over me. So
Hmm.
when I see him, I'm like, yeah, like, it's always all cool. Like I have no animosity towards him. He was a game opponent, and we both ended up being in the UFC. So
And I'm
it's
and I mean,
again,
you seem like the nicest dude. Like, have you ever had beef with any of your opponents, or has it always been cordial?
only two people. The
Hmm.
first one was Anthony Gutierrez. I think he fought in the Ultimate Fighter a while back,
Mm-hmm.
and he's just a dick that beat the shit out of him for 3 rounds. And when he went to the UFC to the Tough, he actually missed weight, and he missed weight when we fought in the amateurs. But he was just a dick. I'm like, whatever, man. I beat the shit out of that dude. I'm like, because the day I showed up there, I made weight. He was off by like 3 or 4 pounds, and he's like, "Oh, well, you're gonna be a little bitch and not take the fight." I'm like, "It's the freaking weight, dude." It's like, I made it. Why can you made it? You're just trying to save it to get out of it. And I made him lose the weight. So I'm like, fuck this dude. It's like, how freaking dare you, man? It's like, I can't. He's like, I don't care if you think amateurs not doesn't count. To me, like, I did what I had to do to make weight. It's like, you failed at it. And look what happens. It bit him in the ass because he went to the UFC to do the Ultimate Fighter, and he missed weight there. And they were
Mm-hmm.
like, yo, we can't have this guy. He's a, there's a lot of
Yeah.
stuff I can say about him, but I'm just like, you know what? Everything happened to him for a reason, and look at him now.
What
He's
goes
that
around comes around.
exactly.
What
The
about the second one?
the second one, it wasn't really beef. It was just odd. This is when I fought Daniel Tamer in Utica.
Okay. I remember
So
that. You got the sub, right?
yeah, and I guess it's him just trying to hype up the fight, which I don't blame him. Like, but we went to weigh in, so like we made weigh in, then we did the face off, and he just like walked up, put his face right on my forehead, like he literally just like headbutted me. I'm like, dude, what's your problem? And he just tried to be a real dick about it, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, but literally like 10 minutes before we walked out to face on the weigh-ins, you were like, shit, you shook my hand, and we said hello. No one's always like fucking get in my face. But the funny thing is, like, since he's a lot shorter than me, I had to get on his tippy toes to reach my head height. So I kind of laughed at that. And
Yeah.
then I'm just like, you know what? And then while we were fighting, he was being a little bit of a dick. So I was like, fuck this, I'm just gonna choke this dude out. I was like, so I just choked him out.
Would you would you say that your fight style in the cage kind of varies based on like your attitude, right? I mean, I feel like it's safe to say that jujitsu is your bread and butter, right? Like kind of where you started out. Obviously, you've been getting these knockouts left and right lately, but
Mhm.
um, would you say that like jujitsu is kind of your safe space in the cage, and then striking is more like let's just try things out and see where it goes.
It's a bit of both because like I love the stand up. I in my when I in the amateurs, I got a lot of submission finishes.
Mm-hmm.
And then once I did the boxing and more kickboxing, I really trusted my hands. Like it was like decisions, TKOs, and then some submissions here and there. So I go back and forth between the two. Like I'm comfortable. I'm comfortable in those areas because my coaches made me do all those disciplines. So then you don't become exposed and you go with somebody that like you go with a wrestler who just gonna like grab you
Right.
and then just throw you around and win a decision because you just couldn't get up. It's
Mm-hmm.
like they're like, you need takedown defense. So they're like, all right, you're gonna do Naga, you're gonna do this, we're gonna have you do wrestling nonstop. It's like
Right.
it took me to like took me like Rutgers College, and like we had the whole team to go with some of those guys from over there, or like to other places, to like school, like high schools. Like, all right, you're gonna go with these guys and wrestle them. And I mean, which it worked out great because look in all these fights that I have, I mean, my takedown defense is a very high percentage. So it goes back to the fact that I'm thankful that, my coaches made me take that kind of journey to do
Right.
all of that.
And
So
have you been like I know that you see some fighters who they'll start out in a certain discipline and then they kind of like fall in love with another discipline. Like you see, like for example, like Khalil Roundtree, he discovered his love for Muay Thai, and now his striking is like very Muay Thai-esque. Have you been like falling in love with any aspect of mixed martial arts that you're like excited to show in your next fight?
I think, well, right now, since I'm recovering, like from this knee injury that I had, it's taught me to use my legs more athletically, like if that
Mhm.
makes sense.
Yeah.
And it's made me like love like jujitsu and wrestling more,
Hmm.
which I got away from because I like my striking so much. And since I'm a lefty, like most people are usually fighting righty righty.
It throws people off.
Yeah. So like that was a huge advantage for me.
Hmm.
But now like that it got taken away from me because of the knee injury. I'm like, I can't wait to do that more. So it's like that. So I'm falling in love with like jujitsu all over again, and really just the whole MMA aspect and to blend it all together now.
Hmm.
Like it got me thinking more. It's like, all right, more better takedown setups off strikes. Okay, what else? Like just mix and the constant just mix of everything to be more of like a complete MMA fighter than
Right.
just let me just strike. Let me just like no, fall in love with the whole thing. So that's what it's been for me.
And I think you're like one of the most complete MMA fighters we have at 135 and soon at 145. I mean, you don't see a lot of people who just like feel comfortable wherever the fight goes. Um, so that's like super impressive. I wanted to talk a little bit about your like experience with Contender Series. You fought in one of the first seasons of Contender Series back when Dana was a little bit more picky about who he wants to give contracts to.
Yeah.
You got the finish, but you still didn't get the contract. I think if that happened in Contender Series today, you would definitely get the contract.
Mhm.
But like tell me a little bit about how that felt to initially not get the contract and then just like what you needed to do to just stay ready and wait for that short notice opportunity.
It was after not getting the contract in that series, it was a little bit heartbreaking because um, it goes through your mind very quick. Like the moment
Mhm.
they're like, okay, these are the people I want the contract, and I was like, part of my heart, like my heart kind of sank in that point a little bit because I'm like, that was my shot, and I I didn't get it. And as I'm literally walking to leaving the venue where they have the Contender Series fights, I'm like, part of me was like, damn, it's like that's it. I just didn't get in. It's like I'm like, do I even continue to pursue it? But it happened so quick because I'm like, nah. It's like a whole conversation in my head. I'm like, fuck this. Like I left my mark. I showed what I can do. I'm
Mhm.
like, I TKO'd the guy. I threw like a freaking 50-piece combination at this dude until the ref stopped it, and I kept going. Like I left my mark there, and you know what? It's like I just gotta pick my head up and just be ready. And literally shortly after, like I did a glory fight, and I finished the guy, TKO'd him, and next thing you know, it was Stipe versus Ngannou in Boston, like the first time they fought,
Mhm.
and my teammate, Shane was fighting that night, and I think Charles Rosa had pulled out because he had an injury. So he just went out tweeting, "Is like, yo, Julio's ready. Give him a call." And I was training the whole time, and they're like, "Yo, here's your shot." So you know, after not getting the contract, could have been like, you know what, I'm done. It's like as far as I go, I didn't get the contract. Whatever, I'm out. But I'm like, you know what? My journey was different from everybody else's. Everyone got, the call instantly.
Mhm.
I had to go a different route, but eventually it led me here. So
Right. Yeah. And you had a fight scheduled, I think, against a guy named James Gonzalez in Ring of Combat.
yeah,
Did you like pull out of that fight when you heard that you can get a UFC shot, or what how did that end up happening?
yeah. So we were supposed to fight, but the moment they're like, oh, they offered this Contender Series fight, I
Mhm.
was like, it's a shot at the UFC. Let me do this, and
Okay.
let's go there. And
So
then
that
they
was
got
scheduled before Contender.
yes,
Gotcha.
yeah,
Okay, that
and
makes sense.
let's do it.
Sweet. Yeah, and then you came in on short notice, beat a guy that everybody knows, Dan Ige. Uh I thought it was 30-27 on all so it was pretty decisive. and that really right off the bat, I mean, Dan Ige wasn't who he is now, but that just goes to show that you could you have that ability to beat anybody in the division.
Mhm.
So you went back to I want to go back a little bit. You were talking about how about your like arc with starting out as more of a submission guy, a jiu-jitsu guy, then you fell in love with your hands a little bit. Now you're like falling back in love with jiu-jitsu again.
Mhm.
So do you ever feel like it's a little bit like information overload? Like you have so many weapons in the octagon, like you can really like do anything you want in there. But do you ever feel like sometimes you're a victim of kind of your own skill set, and like because you can do so much, maybe like you're not always making the right decision?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I actually can agree to that because it's like, uh, so you ever play a video game and they give you like a choice of weapons, and you're just like, I like that one,
Yeah.
but you know what? No, I like this one better. Like causes more damage, but I like that one more because I think it's like, it's like you end up becoming a little bit conflicted about what to use,
Hmm.
and then it's like you end up just like sometimes blanking out. You're just like,
Hmm.
shit, like I'm taking too long for a selection. I'm about to get punched in the freaking face. So
Yeah.
it's a little bit of that, but also now through time and just like maturity as a fighter, my coaches have, and listen to them. They taught me now how to really just like hone in. It's like look, a fight is hard no matter what, but they're more like, let's learn to fight smarter, not harder. I'm like, so if you know this person, it's like, yeah, you can go down to the ground with them, but why do it? Let's just focus. Let's just stick to this game plan and do it. And through years of just like fighting, and of course, as you grow up, like younger me, I was like, nah, I'm just gonna go in there, whatever. Now it's very more calculated about it,
Hmm.
and really understand, like, you guys, okay, this is the game plan. I get why this is the game plan. Okay, this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna stick to this. If it goes to somewhere else that we're expecting, then we're good there. But this is gonna be our main weapon of choice for now,
Right.
right? Because it's working. It's like when I fought the Willie Cat Santos in Florida.
Hmm.
My main thing was move and jab him in his face. That's it. And literally, like, everything was off of that jab, which threw everything off from his spins, his aggressiveness, to the point where he just stayed right there, and I just kept peppering with the jab. So it's understanding why your coaches have a game plan for you,
Right.
why they're like, do it over and over. Even when you're sick of practice, like, keep doing it. So
And I'm glad you mentioned Santos. That's a great transition for me, actually. So I'm wondering about like when you fight someone and then they go on and they like have a couple wins of their own afterwards. He's on a 2-fight win streak now after losing to you. Do you like how do you feel about like your former opponents' careers? Are you like cheering them on, hoping that they like, because if they get more wins in the future, that kind of reflects well on like how your win looks, like the Dan Ige win, for
exactly.
example, right? So like, do you root for your former opponents afterwards?
Yeah, man. Look,
Mm.
at the end of the day, it's just like it's respect between me and these guys.
Mm.
And, look, that's what we chose to do. We chose to fight each other in a cage. And after, look, when I win, it's like, look at Julian Erosa, because he got cut and came back, and
Right.
he got on a streak, and he put away, he choked out Charles Jourdain,
Hmm.
beat Sean Woodson. He choked out Hakeem Dawodu, who I lost to, and I knocked out a Rosa. So it's like a weird cycle, but I'm like, yo, good on you guys.
MMA math, right? It never
Exactly. It just
works. Yeah.
makes no sense. So yeah, I root for them because if my fight ends up turning out the fact, makes you like think about something like, damn, I got to get better at this. And then you come back and you're rattling off wins. I'm like, that makes me look good.
Right. Yeah, totally. And another thing that I'm wondering about is it's crazy to me that you haven't gotten a fight bonus. Like, are you like aching for that bonus? Like, is that something that you're eyeing in your next fight?
Dude, honestly, I thought I would have gotten my a fight bonus when I knocked out Erosa,
Yeah, and the Ewell fight too.
the Ewell fight, and when I fought Shaman Marias in Madison Square Garden, where we were just bloody left and right.
Mhm.
Or like, but I'm like, if I go looking for it, it's like it won't happen. So I'm just gonna be like, I'm just gonna fucking fight and win and just be like, all right, that's it.
Have you
Yeah.
have you were you looking for it in the past? I mean, like that kind like the Shaman fight, I feel like on paper that's a fight that's very winnable for you.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, maybe like the game plan kind of went out the window and you were just focused on putting on a great fight in that one.
Yeah, it was like, dude, that dude freaking floored me with it. But yeah, I got up and I'm like, I was like, I'm just here to fucking fight you, man. It's like you
Yeah.
just brought out the dog in me. I'm like, that dude kicked me, blooded me up. I'm like, fight. I'm trying to choke this dude out. I'm trying to just keep going. I'm like, this was great. That fight for me that's a memorable one
Yeah.
because it was like, yo, as big as that dude was, try to put me away. I'm like, you didn't put me away. I'm like, fight you, man.
I love that. I love that. And you were gonna fight Cody Garbrandt in your upcoming fight, what was supposed to be your next fight, but then you got injured.
Yeah.
How did that injury happen? And what like do you wish that you could still fight Cody, or like what how did that injury end up happening?
So we were doing wall work,
Mhm.
and while we were grappling, the person I was going with, he ended up he was getting taking my back. He was a much bigger person, very well known jujitsu person
Right.
in his community. And as I'm trying, I'm working off the wall. It's like, and we're trying to get up. My leg just collapsed. So it's like my knee went that way, my leg went that way, and my upper body went that way. And I just feel like, I'm like, oh my God,
You
did
knew
this?
right away.
Yeah. I'm like, fuck.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah. It's like, then they're like, yeah, you tore your ACL completely. I was like, ah, Jesus. And the thing
Well,
is, I try to work through it. And one of my teammates, he's like, dude, just tape it, just be like, tape it really tight, go into that fight, like just do it. I'm like, I don't think that's how it works. Because I can't just tape my leg with a 20 ACL and expect it to stay in one piece.
yeah, and let me go just
Same
fight a
place.
former champion on a bum leg. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, I'd rather give Cody the best version of me.
Hmm.
Now look, today, if like when it come back, I know like Cody got injured and he had to pull out of his fight.
Right.
So if in the future, look, I'm gonna come back to 45 because these weight cuts are just also like I can make it, but also it's like dude, it's a killer right now.
Right.
But
And
if they were like, well, it's like Cody needs a fighter,
mhm,
I'll drop to 35. I know I can make it.
right.
I'll,
Yeah. And I mean,
it's a,
at the end of the day, obviously that's kind of a dream fight, right? But at the same time, I think I agree with you. I think you've never been finished at 45. And I think you have a real chance at going on a run at that weight class.
yeah.
There were did you watch the UFC card this morning? There were a couple
I
45ers on that card.
Yeah, I didn't get to watch all because I was teaching this morning, but
Mhm.
I got to see some of the Max Holloway fight. That dude's just a man. Remember meeting him?
What a beast. It's
Yeah,
crazy that they're in Singapore, obviously zombies from Korea, but like it kind of his home soil type of thing. And everybody's still cheering for him, cheering for Max after he knocked him out. It was awesome to see.
yeah. That dude's just winning at everything right now, winning his
Yeah.
fight, winning a life. It's like good for him, man. Such a good dude. I met him when I went to because I fought the same night that he fought Yair,
Hmm.
and dude was the coolest freaking dude ever. And I met him in Boston when Stipe fought Ngannou.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, it's cool to see like fighters actually getting along and everything. Obviously it's kind of like popular right now to have a lot of beefs and everything like that. But I'm a big fan of when people are showing respect to each other. I think sometimes we forget that this is martial arts and how important it is to have respect and be humble in this sport. Speaking of being humble, uh how come you were sitting with the fans for the PFL card on Wednesday? I was expecting you to be like in that zone where they most of the fighters sit.
Oh, that's what, like that VIP's booth right there.
Yeah, yeah.
I was sitting with my teammates who I train with, like all the people that like I was sitting with, like I train with them on a regular basis. They're like, yo, we got tickets. I'm like, yo, let's go watch Shane fight. Like I'm like, it's cool to sit with all these little celebrities, but I'm like, nah, I want to sit with all the people I normally know with, because then you could just shoot the shit,
A
talk
man of the
crap.
people. A man of the
Yeah,
people.
exactly.
I love it. I love it. And I know you guys have a super tight knit group over there at Tiger Schulman's. Tell me a little bit about that team. I'm actually, I would say I'm the biggest Mike Trezano fan out of anybody I know.
He's looking to try and get a fight soon. He's
Yeah,
back in action. That dude's the man.
right.
But yeah, like it's crazy because we all started out in like different Tiger Schulman's locations. Like,
Hmm.
some in Jersey, some in PA, us right here in New York. And it's crazy that, we didn't know each other until we all started going to our main headquarters.
Hmm.
And it's like we all became just such close friends by beating the shit out of each other. Like, look, when I first met Shane, this is when Shane was like, he walked around 135.
Wow.
Yeah, so Shane was like skinny.
Tiny.
Yeah. And like, like they're like, oh, they wanted me to do like some rounds with him, and we sparred and everything. It was all great. And like you look at it now, I'm like, damn, dude, I forgot you used to be like this freaking skinny. Now you
Yeah,
freaking
yeah.
huge, man. I'm like, god damn.
And I
Uh,
know, and I know that guy's gonna bounce back. Obviously that loss was tough to take, but it was a fight of the year contender. Like that guy, he's not in a boring fight. I've seen him watch. I've seen him fight. I think 3 or 4 times live now, and every single time it's like a fight of the night.
that you know what, like Shane's just a freaking beast, man, and
Hmm.
that's all I can really say. Like, look, even if he didn't get the decision that night, he's the true people's champion, because
He
it's
got
like you
our
said,
hearts.
he leaves it all out there.
Yeah.
Like there was not one person in that theater that was not sitting, that was sitting down.
Hmm.
Everybody on their feet watching. Like he's just going through everything, just like kicking this dude's leg, throwing him, everything. He got knocked down, does not matter. Dude just keeps freaking fighting.
Yeah.
So he's never in a boring fight. He goes out there and puts his heart out for there. So, you know,
He was
I
tearing
don't
up
see
that lead
that.
leg too. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like I don't see that as a loss for Shane. It's
Hmm.
like this dude's another one that's he's winning no matter what, because he's never in a boring fight.
Right.
He always brings it, and his drive is incredible for him to do what he does.
Right. Yeah, and so for your future at 145 and everything like that, do you have a opponent in mind? Have you gotten any contract any fight offers or anything like that?
Nothing yet. I'm still, since I'm only 6 months in. By the 9 month mark, I should be, like I should be like already going 100%. So
Hmm.
probably by like this, a little bit into next year, I'll be back. I'll be back to looking for an opponent.
Hmm.
As having an opponent in mind, I'm not sure, since I'm moving back up to 45. Are they gonna throw, you know, an up and comer, or they're gonna give me somebody who's been around. Who
Right.
knows? We'll see. But whatever they give me, I don't really have much of a say in that unless you're like on the A list of fighters. So I'm like, yo, give me a fight. Let me fight whoever it is, beat this person, and get a new contract.
You have 2 fights left on your deal. Is that correct? Just
I
one?
have one fight left. My last fight would have been with Cody, and then we probably renegotiated. But so since that fight fell through, I got a contract extension. So I have one fight left. So when I come back, I'm gonna do this one fight and go for a new contract.
I love it. I love it. And then, one of your most recent fights was against Song Yadong back in 2021.
Mhm.
A lot of people have him labeled as like maybe a future champ, future title contender. What did you think of him in there?
Honestly, that freaking dude hits. He's like everything's full force.
Hmm.
Even in the first round, I know he missed a couple of shots, felt the wind of his punches. Dude's a tank, man. And you know what? He made it that far for a reason.
Yeah.
Um, dude, dude's just, strong. And the thing is, he's also, how old is he? Isn't he one of like the youngest fighters on the roster right now?
Yeah. I feel like he's been like 24 for like 10 years now. Yeah.
Seriously.
Yeah.
I'm like, damn, it's like I'm finding this dude, I'm 10 years older than this dude when I fought him. I'm
Yeah.
like, God damn, dude.
I remember
But
my first beer. Yeah.
exactly. So no, dude's a solid power hitter, man. Especially like the fights he's been in, it's been crazy. The fight with him
Yeah.
and Corey Sanhagen, that's another insane bantamweight. And then, like his fight with Ricky Simone, he made Ricky Simone look like nothing.
Hmm.
So he's
Yeah.
a, he's a top contender, man. He's
And
supposed to fight Rob Font, so let's see who they give him next.
you and Rob Font could be twins, honestly, now that I'm thinking about it. Have you ever gotten that?
When Mike fought in the Ultimate Fighter finale,
Hmm.
it was funny. Like I was walking into a hotel, and this kid and his dad walks out. He's like, "Dad, Dad, Dad! Oh my
It's Rob
God!"
Font. It's Rob
Yeah,
Font.
that person he's like, "I know you, I know you." And I'll be like, "Yeah, I'm Julio." He's like, "It's Rob Font." Shows me the picture. He's like, "Can you sign it for me?" I was just like, you know what? I got you, man. I put my signature on it, but I'm like, have fun, kid.
That's hilarious. Yeah. I think I saw
Uh,
an interview, I saw a video recently where somebody thought Jalen Turner was like some other black guy.
what's funny is when I fought Dan Ige,
Yeah.
like our haircuts were similar and like we look kind of similar. And they're like, it's like, yo, you and Dan Ige look like you're related. I'm like, come on, man. It's like, really?
Jeez, man.
They're funny.
Well, I thanks so much for your time so far. I want to wrap this up in a few minutes, but I have a few questions that I wanted to ask you kind of like away from fighting before that.
Mhm.
So first and foremost, I wanted to ask about your like gym ownership. I know that you are a co-owner at Tiger Schulman's Bayside. When did you end up becoming a co-owner, and like what was that process like, and what's it like to kind of be a coach and a mentor now?
You know what? It's all very rewarding because, I started off as just a student, like literally, I didn't have any of this in mind, and falling in love with martial arts the way that I did, and seeing what it did for me, you know, I want to be able to pass that off to like the next generation of like, kids, adults, everyone who trains at our school. And, after putting in, the amount of time that I've been putting in, going to headquarters, teaching classes, teaching the fight team as well, and training with them, coming back to teach at my school, and giving these kids knowledge, giving them, whether it's a boost of confidence, or seeing that they can, whatever it is that they can, showing them that they can achieve, whether it's fighting or not. It's like that they can achieve something so great in life by just not giving up on what they're doing. Help them overcome obstacles, whether it's a kid, a teenager, an adult. It's the most rewarding feeling. So then, when with my mentor, he was like, dude, like, he offered me a part of the school and I bought into it, and I was like, this is an honor, because it's like I never like I never imagined this as a kid, and now that like it's like you step into these shoes where you're just like, damn, I felt like I've accomplished something so great just within my life, from through fighting, making it to the highest level, now being an owner in a school, and having an amazing student body, and just people there to just want to train, get good. It's the most rewarding feeling. So, and the coaching side of it is great, because you see all the kids that have been training with the kids that have been training with me for such a long period of time. They're like mini versions of me when they grapple, when they go compete, and I'm like, that makes me proud. That makes me proud, because I'm like, damn, you guys are all turned into little badasses. That's cool.
I love that. I love that. And you mentioned video games a little bit. You talked about Dragon Ball Z a little bit. I'm a little bit of a closet nerd myself, so I just wanted to know, are you a big gamer? Do you watch anime? Tell me a little bit about that.
Dude, I love watching anime, because it's like, although people go like, it's cartoons, there's actually a lot of concepts behind it, like a lot of life lessons. Like when you look at it, it's always someone that had nothing and they turned it into something great for themselves. So it's like they probably like got defeated, hit the dirt a bunch of times, whatever it is, but it's like they just got up and kept going, and and they end up being like something amazing through life. So I felt like those were, everyone, like some people have like their TV series and stuff like that. For me, like I feel like anime has done a lot of that for me.
Yeah.
Plus, being martial arts, you're like, yo, it's like it's relatable, because it's like everyone fights in anime stuff. So it's like, so look, I'm a nerd in that sense. I love video games. That's something I love to do every single day.
What are you playing these days?
Well, right now, I'm waiting till a couple games come out. I tried to go into Diablo, but then I had a couple friends who made me yeah, so I'm gonna tell you the thing. So I have a friend of mine. It's pretty funny. His name is Daber. He's always like, yo, dude, get this game. We'll play online. We'll play online. And you know what he does? I'm like, yo, do you ready to play? He's like, nah, I don't want to play it. I moved on to a different game. I'm like,
dude.
I was like, dude, why you made me buy this game? We're never gonna play it. So we bust his balls on that. But right now, I'm playing the new Legend of Zelda game, the Tears
Breath of
of
the
the
Wild
Kingdom.
2?
Yes, that one.
Yeah.
And pretty dope. Like it's a lot more difficult now to play video games, because it's like, for me, training, teaching, my school, that. So, like during the weekends, you find the time to just sit back, even if it's for like 20 minutes. I'll play some Mario Kart. I'll play some Super Smash Brothers. I'm waiting for this new game called Lord of the Fallen.
Yeah.
That's like, it's like, looks like the next like kind of Elden Ring style type of game, which was great. So I'm like, I can't wait till that comes out. It's gonna be dope. Or the new Spider-Man game. I'm like, can't wait.
I'm the type of guy, I like buy all these games and then I don't even play them, and they just like sit on my shelf, and I'm just like, damn, like why did I even buy that?
Same thing.
Yeah, I'm a big I play UFC 4 a lot. Do you ever play UFC at all?
Yeah, I was playing it with some friends of mine. They just kicked the shit out of me. I'm like, I'm gonna kick the shit out of you on the mat.
In real life, yeah. And then anime wise, what are you watching these days?
Right now, I finished the new Jujutsu Kaisen series, and I'm waiting for the new one to come out, which is gonna be great. The Bleach, the Blood War. That's just, I love what they've done with the series. They're literally not wasting any time, and they just go right into it. And then there's another one. It's called Zom 101. So it's like this one kid's like in a zombie apocalypse. Like he was worked to death in some like company. So now that he's like free of it, he's like he makes like a bucket list of everything to do before he gets eaten by a zombie or turns into a zombie. So it's pretty dope.
I'll check that one out. I haven't heard of that one, but I'll definitely check it out. Last thing before I let you go. Oh yeah. By the way, are you a Naruto guy? I don't know.
Loved it. I
Yeah,
watched every episode.
that's
And
that's
One
that's like
Piece. That's the one that I've also been just
yes.
caught
Are
up
you
with.
caught up?
I'm caught up with it. It's
Oh my
freaking
God, my guy. Let's go. That's
yeah,
awesome.
dude. Dude, it's like it's still hard to believe they're like like thousands of episodes and they're still not even close to the finish.
People don't realize that One Piece is gonna go down as like not just like the best anime of all time, but like one of the best stories of all time. Like this is literally like I tell people, like if you like Game of Thrones, if you like any of that kind of stuff, like I mean One Piece, probably don't try it because it would take you way too long, but like man, like I agree with you. I think that anime gets a bad rep. I think a lot of people think it's like tentacle porn. Oh,
Yeah.
that's my cat feeder. It's gonna go off
Yeah.
one more time, but yeah. Sorry, that's all right. It's done now. Okay, cool. So last thing before I let you go, man. I think that one thing that we fight fans really love to hear about is just like the relationships that you have in the gym and like the people you're training with and everything like that. Like we love to hear about how tight you are with Shane and the rest of the team and everything. One thing that I think that everybody loves to hear about is like who's that next killer coming out of the gym that we don't know about, right? So I would love to hear like who are your favorite training partners, and then who are some of the fighters at Tiger Schulman's that you think that everybody's going to know about soon, but people don't know about them yet.
Well, training wise, every person that comes to our headquarters it's they show up there and they step up to the level. So whether you want to fight or not, like you have people that are just like very good and they go up there and they step up. We have like a whole roster of people. So I love going with everyone that's just constantly challenging me. And even if they're not at this level, they step up and there's always something to get, you learn from every person you go with.
Mm-hmm.
As far as the next couple of killers that you're gonna see coming from our gym, got a couple of people. One of them, his name is Christian McCauley. He's I think 3-0 now, all finishes. Also Rob Vericchio, he's 3-0 or 4-0. He's gonna be fighting actually next week in CFFC. We have this kid Ricardo Fuentes. He's an up and comer. He's 5-1, and these are like just the pros. You have Ryan Burgos, who's healing up right now, who's going to be, Shane's little brother. It's like he's just as crazy as Shane. So these are like the next the next batch who you'll see later on. Also, my teammate Moncher Kara. If you ever heard of like Munch, he's 4-0, all wins by just like submission. We have another up and comer. His name is Bobby Casal. He's working his way up. He was supposed to fight this next week, but he got injured, so he had to pull out of the fight. But he's another force to be reckoned with. And another kid named Alberto, who he's gonna fight in Rare Combat like in 2 weeks.
Cool. Yeah, and I'll definitely keep my eye out for those guys. And I really appreciate the time, Sensei Arce.
My guy, thank you,
dude. It's been really great chopping it up with you. I asked you for 30 minutes and you gave me an hour. I really think that's just the type of guy you are, and I really appreciate the time. I'm a writer for Verdict, but this interview is going to go onto my personal profile. I'm starting, just like everybody else in the game, starting my own podcast and all that stuff. And very grateful that you gave me the time. And I'm wishing you the best of luck in the rest of your recovery. And I'll always be keeping an eye on my Jersey, New York guys.
My guy, appreciate it. Good luck with the podcast. And once I get close, once I, get back into going to fighting again, we'll be talking again.
I'd love to chop it up with you again, man. Thank you so much, and have a great rest of your day.
You too, my man. Take care. Later.